In Jeffrey Epstein's email file, he described eating a child similar to eating cream cheese. That's what we're dealing with in the world of crypto at the moment when we're trying to predict and work out where the market's heading. Bitcoin is never ending this descent. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. It's now $70,000 at and around at the time of filming this video, and the market looks terrible. Now, when we're talking about the problems in the world of crypto, there's also many more problems. You have MicroStrategy and a company called BitMine. MicroStrategy, as we all know, its MNAV premium is no longer. MicroStrategy is worth the value of its assets and no more, so there's no hype. The problem is there's another company called BitMine. BitMine started doing the whole MicroStrategy Ponzi scheme far too late, and as I'm going to show you in today's video, they were buying way too high, and that potentially will cause a mass sell-off of all of their crypto in order to pay back their creditors, because currently they have a negative premium on their stock that could force the sale of their assets. Now, BitMine is a company run by a man called Tom Lee. Tom Lee is currently in place to become the world's worst ever trader. Now, he's going to get that title because the worst ever trade on earth was a minus $8 billion trade, and we're going to talk about this. Currently he's looking at minus $9 billion, the worst trade ever, because Tom, for a couple of years now, has been slamming all of his investors' money into Ethereum, and he's about to go bankrupt. Now, the thing is, if Tom goes bankrupt, that creates another issue, because Tom currently holds, I think it's about $8 or $9 billion worth of Ethereum, and his company is worth $8 or $9 billion. Now, Tom is in nearly an 80% loss on his investment so far. It's getting pretty terrible for Tom. And the way that Tom's business pays out its interests to its creditors is they pay it out in the form of dividend payments, which is why they may soon be forced to sell over $1.6 billion of the Ethereum that they hold in order to pay out the next round of interest payments. And that's where things get interesting, because today I'm also going to show you a chart that I showed you in yesterday's video. It's called the Wyckoff, but I've done some more research on it. I've planned it out a little bit better so I can show you it in a bit more detail. But that Wyckoff chart, it looks terrible. Honestly, it's one of the worst things that I'm going to be able to show you, but if we're right about it, and I'm pretty sure that we are, then it means that we're going to make a lot of money, but not this year. It just basically means this year's a write-off. It's going to be pretty rubbish, but that doesn't mean we can't make money trading the little bits and bobs in between. So if you're interested in what's to come in today's video, I'm about to go to my desk, so if you wouldn't mind, drop a like on it, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate that. Turn on those channel notifications. This is my second channel, by the way, TMG Trades. It's not the main one, but I am daily uploading on the second channel. So subscribe, like, and I am on my way to the desk. Now then, we're back in the office, and it's time to show you what's going on with the price of Bitcoin. I hope some of you understood that joke, because it is a video about Epstein at the end of the day, so some of you will. Anyway, Wyckoff. That's what I want to talk about at the start of today's video, because the Wyckoff formation will result in something crazy happening. This is how I plotted it out. Now, I want to point something out to you about this chart. When I drew this line here, I drew this line at around that point in time, when I'd first started to spot that this was very similar to the breakdown on a Wyckoff. I then plotted out the whole Wyckoff back then in 2017, and we pretty much followed it perfectly, which is why this doesn't match the chart perfectly, but even though it followed it pretty much perfectly, again, that was just a rough drawing from me back in the day. So the first thing that I want to show you is that when we copy the Wyckoff accumulation pattern from 2017 bear market, and we drag it over the current and existing trading setup that we have, we can see that if we was to overlay that, then it looks very similar to actually what we think will play out. So I drew a better version, a more proportioned version of what I expect the Wyckoff accumulation pattern is going to play out as. That was the rough line from a couple of years ago, but it looks very similar to the new blue line that I've drawn here, where you can see you've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then we have a bunch of support levels down here. And eventually, it kind of looks, from my perspective, if we're just going sensible, not talking Bitcoin Epstein or anything like that, we're literally just talking Bitcoin, $58,000, the bottom. The problem is if it was a perfectly proportioned Wyckoff accumulation pattern, that is in April of 2027. Now, I don't know about you. I'd rather not make predictions that are a year in advance that are terrible, but I think I have to. I think it's going to be a really bad year for Bitcoin. I think we're going to bounce pretty soon. I think the bottom's pretty close. And I'll be buying at $67,000. And we're not so far off that. We're only about $3,000 off that. At $67,000, I am going to buy 10 Bitcoins. And then I'm not going to buy any more until we hit $62,000, where I'll buy another 10 Bitcoins. And kind of every $5,000 that we drop below, if I can afford it, I'll buy another 10 Bitcoins. Because this is the point in the market where you make the money. You have to buy when it looks like a really bad idea. You have to buy when it looks like you're 2 years away from making any profit. You have to make these decisions at these terrible periods in time when it looks like everyone is giving up. Now, the thing is, you do have kind of a year to make this decision, and you don't need to throw in right now because things do look terrible, and even if we were to bounce, we'd probably continue to go down. So don't rush this decision. Bitcoin aside, however, we need to talk about Tom Lee and the situation with BitMine, because it looks terrifying, terrible, call it what you will. You see, young Thomas that owns BitMine Immersion Technologies bought $8.95 billion worth of Ethereum for nearly $20 billion. So he's lost half of his money on that pretty much. The value of his company is now $7.57 billion, and that gives him an MNAV of 0.85, which means that his Ethereum is worth more than his company. But that's because that Ethereum, its value is stored in debt. So if you, for example, was to give me $10 million and I was to go out and I was to buy Ethereum, and that Ethereum dropped in value 50%, but because you gave me $10 million to buy Ethereum with, that valued my company at $100 million. And so what has happened is these people have leveraged their stock price in order to take loans against the value of their stock to acquire assets that have depreciated in value. And when those assets depreciate, these companies get left with under-collateralized loans. They back up the rest of that collateral by using share capital, but the problem they have is if there is no new demand for shares, then they have to increase the amount of shares in order to pay down that capital, which then causes share dilution, which basically causes stock implosion. And trust me, I'm pretty confident this one's going to happen, to be fair. I think 2 or 3 more months he might manage to make it out, but my expectation is Tom Lee is ending his Trump presidency behind bars. I get the vibe that a Sam Bankman-Fried type situation is coming soon unless we get a bailout. This industry has become top heavy, but don't forget, King of America right now, he loves a bailout. Absolute massive fan of a bailout. And it would be a very Trump policy to have a government bailout of a decentralized industry. So there's something, it might happen. Anyway, Epstein. Nah, joke, we've got to talk a bit more about BitMine first. So back on this topic here. This is where BitMine decided to purchase all of their Ethereum. So they had all of this time here when Ethereum was down at $1,000 or down at $2,000. No. We're not going to buy down at $2,000. The first time we're going to buy it is at $3,000. Second time is nearly $4,000. Then we're going to pay above $4,000. And then as time goes on, we start, there's so much hype in this period where it's really easy to raise money. Oh, look, the hype's fading. Oh, look, the buys are getting smaller. You can tell that by the size of the circles being smaller. Oh, look, the buys are getting smaller and smaller and smaller as the price is going down and somebody's running out of cash. To me, that chart looks like a business implosion more than anything. Add to it headlines like this, like major Bitcoin miner faces bankruptcy as CEO is under house arrest. And headlines like this, such as, the worst trade ever on Earth was minus 10 billion US dollars. It was 20% decline, and it was taken by a guy called Bill Huang. The second worst trade on Earth was minus $9 billion by Harry Hubler. Then another one, another 9 billion, another 9 billion, a guy called Bruno, and this one was some Chinese fella. Then we've got a few more, but the point is, on this list here, Tom Lee already finds himself in 4th place because he's lost about $8.5 billion as it stands. But if Ethereum continues to decline below $2,000, that will take Tom to the very top of this list. But in order to cement his position at the top of one of the most prestigious lists in trading history, he has to actually get liquidated. Otherwise, he won't be at the top of the list, and instead he'll have just been there and then he bounces out of it. So, if we want to see Tom at the top of the list, we need to pray for another 20% drop. Don't know if I actually want that to happen, but to be fair, this market at this point in time, it's getting attractive, isn't it? These prices are getting pretty decent. But now it's time for the news, where Keir Starmer is finding himself in even more hot water because he appointed a potential pedo to run our US connection in the UK. Also, this happened, which is pretty, you can find this stuff, it's all on the internet, it's shocking. You don't need to find it, it's honestly optional. We are ready to talk. News anchor Savannah Guthrie has pleaded for a return of her abducted mother. Why the is that in today's news? Ignore that story. Now this one's not a particularly financial story, but it is kind of relevant. A man in Australia has been charged with abusing 459 children. My question to that, is that something to do with all of this information that's getting released and leading to arrests, and they're just picking up the low-hanging fruit first and they're going to come after the politicians? That's where I think all of this is heading, and we're going to get onto that topic in a second because I've got a couple of videos to show you. But before we do, silver has returned to dumping. Silver, is it a meme coin trade? My thought is yes. China's Hong Kong listed tech stocks have entered a bear market as tax and AI fears have taken hold. Asia is not looking fantastic at the moment because a lot of their shares have been tumbling. And finally, Bitcoin is making the news in Reuters today because Bitcoin is slumped with a key $70,000 level in sight. The thing is, generally when we see this kind of thing, that article is quite a bearish article, but not incredibly bearish. It's not bearish enough to make me want to buy yet. And I might be being a little greedy here, you know, waiting for lower. But I'm going to wait it out. I get the feeling this has a crescendo because of what I'm about to show you. And just before I do, I just found this tweet that I put out earlier today. BitMine is now down over 43% on its ETH treasury. They have a current balance of $9.2 billion and have lost $7.1 billion as of 13 hours ago. And since that time, that number increased to about $8 billion. But this stuff, this is what I wanted to talk about. This crazy man here that was in charge of England for many years, that he's been proven now, he had a pretty close relationship with this man right here. And this man right here, he's been causing some bother because he was really good with a camera. Was he on camera? I don't know. But these two men have been linked recently. And this has created a bit of a problem for the UK government. Just give this a watch.
Tony has turned funny. So I don't know what Tony's doing for money. I hear gigantic numbers given to Tony. 5 million here, 10 million here, 5 million there. Tony's not making $30 million a year.
Instead of escalating
Tony Blair, for example, is doing some probably 11 million per year from the Kazakhstan government.
He's making 10 million a year.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, but probably he gets the money and he leaves some of it with others.
UN Security Council with details. We are not.
Now, it's not very often in life that you actually get the opportunity to investigate and find out about powerful figures on Earth that have been controlling our lives since we was babies, and suddenly they all turn out to be pedos. Now, Tony Blair is also in the Epstein files. The question is, what was Tony Blair's involvement in all of this, and why was Epstein doing business for tens of millions of dollars with Tony Blair? Because in the past 24 hours, there's been just... When they released this information, they released tiny amounts of it all at the same time. They did a huge data dump, but actually only a small portion of the information was visible. Every day they seem to be allowing a little bit more of that information to be visible. And this is going to keep going on and on and on. And that's my fear for the market. My fear for the market is if this continues, and it probably will, then it's just going to get worse. And naturally, we've seen it before. There's breaks from time to time. So these breaks, you have you bounce back upwards and then, oh, look, it's continued and it keeps going down. We'll get another one. It keeps happening like that. But my big fear is that they find actually that Epstein was doing a lot of business with the global elite who do run the world and continue to run the world and are currently in charge of America. And when they find that inevitably, yes, he was doing business with all these people, and yes, they were all going to his island and having parties and everything like that, well, what do you do when your entire global government is full of pedos? It is a genuine, as somebody that employs a lot of people, I know that I would find this a very difficult situation to manage. So what's going to go on with all this crazy stuff with the Epstein files? I don't know, but I'm going to be making a proper video and putting it on the main channel. So make sure you drop a like on this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. In terms of what we can expect from gold, everything like that, just Stay away from it. It's bad news. I mean, you can buy the dip, but even if I was to show you, look, gold right now, this is the price of gold. You can see this is the daily chart. I only like to show you daily charts because it gives you a bit of a longer term perspective on things and keeps the videos relevant for a little bit longer. But basically, you can see from that gold has done its big run up. It's starting to collapse, and if it doesn't bounce in the next 24, 48 hours, this will be a steady loop back outwards, and it'll be a bit of a price reset back down to the low $4,000 numbers. And if that's the case, well, Bitcoin is absolutely it's gonna just go down, get worse, you're gonna have a depressing time of it. My advice is you have a bullish mentality and a bearish approach. That's what you need. You need that dollar cost average mentality, and you need that long-term approach. But at the same time, you need to be realistic about the outcomes from the market at the moment. And if the whole world is full of pedos, it's not gonna go that well. And on that note, guys, I'm not a pedo, so drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.